Commander Jake Morrison sat in his chair on Luna Base, watching the endless stream of data flow across his monitors. The orbital station floated silently between Earth and the Moon, its massive dish arrays scanning the deep space for any signs of unusual activity. Jake had been doing this job for 12 years now, and most nights were quiet. Too quiet. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago, but he kept sipping it anyway. His shift would end in 2 hours, and then Lieutenant Brady would take over. Jake was looking forward to getting some sleep when every alarm on the station started screaming at once. Red lights flashed across the control room. The main computer's voice echoed through the speakers with mechanical precision. Incoming transmission detected. Origin unknown. Signal strength impossible. Jake jumped from his chair and ran to the main console. His fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to understand what was happening. The readings made no sense. The signal was coming from outside the solar system, but it was arriving faster than light speed. That should have been impossible. "Computer, show me the source location," Jake commanded. A star map appeared on the large screen in front of him. A red dot pulsed far beyond the edge of human space, in a region that Earth's telescopes had barely explored. The distance reading made Jake's heart skip a beat. Over 1,000 light-years away. "Dr. Rodriguez to the control room immediately," Jake spoke into his communicator. If anyone could figure out what they were receiving, it would be Amy Rodriguez, the station's language expert. Amy arrived within minutes, her dark hair messy from sleep and her lab coat thrown hastily over her pajamas. She took one look at the displays and her eyes went wide. "Jake, this is incredible. The signal is using mathematical patterns, but they're wrapped around something else. Something that looks like language." For the next 4 hours, Amy worked without stopping. She fed the alien transmission through every computer program the station had. Jake watched over her shoulder as strange symbols appeared on the screen, followed by star charts that seemed to show the positions of planets and suns. "I think I've got something," Amy said finally, her voice shaking with excitement. "These beings call themselves Zephyrians. They're trying to tell us something urgent." The translation was rough, but the message was clear enough to make Jake's blood run cold. The Zephyrians were under attack by something they called the Devourers. These attackers were not living creatures, but machines that consumed everything in their path. They had already destroyed 17 star systems, turning planets into raw materials for their fleet. "Jake, look at this part," Amy pointed to a section of the message. "They're showing us a map. The Devourers are moving in a straight line through the galaxy, and if they keep going ... She traced her finger across the star chart. "They'll reach Earth eventually." Jake felt sick. The Zephyrians weren't just asking for help. They were warning humanity about something that could destroy their entire civilization. He picked up his communicator and called Terra Command on Earth. "This is Commander Morrison on Luna Base. I need to speak with Admiral Campbell immediately." "Priority Alpha," the response came back within seconds. "Admiral Campbell is in a meeting, Commander. Can this wait?" "No, it cannot wait. Tell the Admiral that we've received a transmission from an alien species. They're under attack by machines that are heading toward Earth." The line went quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral Campbell's voice came through, sharp and focused. "Commander, are you absolutely certain about this?" "Yes, Admiral. Dr. Rodriguez has been translating their message for hours. The aliens are desperate. They chose to contact Earth specifically because they believe we're the only species that can help them fight these machines." "Send me everything you have, Commander. I want Dr. Rodriguez's translation, the original signal, and your analysis." "Report. I need them in the next 10 minutes." Jake and Amy worked frantically to prepare the data package. As they uploaded the files to Terra Command, more messages arrived from the Zephyrians. Each one was more desperate than the last. Their population was dropping rapidly as the Devourers harvested their cities. "Admiral, we're receiving updated messages," Jake reported. "The situation on their homeworld is getting worse?" "They may not have much time left." "Understood, Commander. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. This could be the threat we've been preparing for." For decades, Earth's military had been building ships and weapons designed to fight an unknown enemy from space. The Martian wars had taught humanity that conflict could come from anywhere. The asteroid belt pirates had shown them that space was full of dangers, but this was different. This was a threat that could end all life on Earth. Amy continued working on the translations while Jake coordinated with Terra Command. The Zephyrians had included detailed information about the Devourers in their messages. The machines were adaptive, learning from each battle they fought. They showed no mercy and took no prisoners. Every organic creature they encountered was simply raw material for their expansion. Jake, I think I understand why they contacted us, Amy said quietly. Zephyrians have been monitoring radio transmissions from different star systems. They've been studying various civilizations, trying to find someone who could help them fight. And they chose Earth? They chose Earth because of our military history. According to their data, humans have been involved in more armed conflicts than any other species they've observed. They think we're the most experienced fighters in this part of the galaxy. Jake looked at the star charts showing the Devourer's path of destruction. 17 star systems, each one containing billions of lives, had been completely erased. The machines moved with mechanical precision, consuming everything in their path and growing stronger with each victory. His communicator buzzed with an incoming message from Terra Command. Commander Morrison, this is Admiral Campbell. I've reviewed your data with the Defense Council. We're authorizing the deployment of Battle Fleet Alpha. Captain Ryan Brooks will command the mission aboard the USS Harbinger. Jake felt a mixture of relief and fear. The USS Harbinger was Earth's most advanced warship, equipped with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. If anyone could help the Zephyrians, it would be Captain Brooks and his crew. Admiral, what are our chances? Jake asked. Unknown, Commander. But the Zephyrians were right about one thing. If we're going to fight these machines, we'd better do it far away from Earth, keep monitoring their signals, and relay any new information to Captain Brooks. As Jake watched the distant stars through Luna Base's observation windows, he wondered if humanity was ready for a war unlike anything they had ever faced. The Zephyrians had put their faith in Earth's military might, but would it be enough to stop an enemy that had already conquered 17 worlds? Admiral Lisa Campbell stood in the center of Terra Command's war room, surrounded by dozens of screens showing ship locations across the solar system. The emergency meeting had lasted 6 hours, and now the real work began. She had just authorized the largest military operation in human history. All fleet commanders report to your vessels immediately, Admiral Campbell spoke into the communications array. This is not a drill. We are going to war. Captain Ryan Brooks received the message aboard the USS Harbinger, humanity's most advanced warship. The massive vessel floated in Earth's orbit, its dark hull bristling with weapons that had never been fired in anger. Ryan had commanded the ship for 3 years, but this would be its first real mission. Commander Parker, get all senior officers to the briefing room, Ryan ordered his tactical officer. We have work to do. Within minutes, the ship's senior staff gathered around the holographic display table. Commander Helen Parker, the tactical officer, studied the star charts with intense focus. Dr. Steve Martinez, the ship's medical officer, looked worried as he read the reports about the Devourers. Chief Engineer Danny Cooper was already making notes about weapon modifications. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to help an alien species fight against machines that have destroyed 17 star systems. Captain Brooks began. The enemy is called the Devourers. They turn living beings into raw materials for their fleet. The room fell silent as the weight of the mission settled on everyone. They had trained for space combat, but always against human enemies. Fighting alien machines was something completely different. Meanwhile, at Luna Base, Commander Jake Morrison worked with Lieutenant Colonel Kate Sullivan to coordinate the fleet's logistics. Kate had spent her entire career organizing military supplies, but this operation was beyond anything she had ever handled. We need to load every ship with enough food, water, and ammunition for a 6-month mission, Kate explained to the supply teams. The journey to the alien homeworld will take 3 weeks each way, and we don't know how long the battle will last. Jake continued receiving messages from the Zephyrians. Dr. Amy Rodriguez had set up a translation system that could process their communications in real time. The news was getting worse with each report. The Devourers have landed on the planet's surface, Amy translated from the latest message. They're building factories that turn organic matter into new machines. The Zephyrian population is dropping by millions every day. The human fleet consisted of 49 ships in total. The USS Harbinger served as the flagship, accompanied by 12 heavy cruisers like the USS Defiance, commanded by Captain Elena Vasquez. 36 destroyers would provide support and protection for the larger vessels. Each ship carried weapons designed specifically for fighting mechanical enemies. The quantum torpedoes could punch through the strongest armor, while the railgun batteries fired projectiles at incredible speeds. Most importantly, Chief Engineer Cooper had developed EMP generators that could disrupt electronic systems. The EMP weapons are our secret advantage, Danny explained to the engineering teams. The Devourers are machines, which means they depend on electronic systems to function. If we can disrupt their communications and control systems, we can turn their own size against them. Dr. Rodriguez spent her time learning more about the Zephyrians from their messages. The aliens had evolved from peaceful traders who traveled between star systems selling biotechnology. They had never needed to develop advanced weapons because they had never encountered an enemy like the Devourers. The Zephyrians are pacifists by nature, Amy explained to Admiral Campbell during a video conference. They've been trying to fight the Devourers with defensive measures, but it's not working. They need someone who understands warfare. And they chose us because of our military history, Admiral Campbell replied. They've been monitoring human radio transmissions for decades. They know about our wars, our weapons, and our tactics. The fleet preparation took 48 hours. Every ship was loaded with supplies, ammunition, and spare parts. The crews ran through combat drills and emergency procedures. Medical teams prepared for casualties, while engineering teams double-checked every system. Captain Brooks met with the other ship commanders via holographic conference. Captain Elena Vasquez of the USS Defiance had fought in the Martian Wars and brought valuable experience to the mission. Captain Maria Santos commanded a squadron of destroyers and specialized in fighter combat tactics. The Devourers outnumber us significantly, Captain Brooks explained to the assembled commanders, but they're machines. They follow programmed patterns and can adapt as quickly as human crews can think. Lieutenant Colonel Sullivan had worked without sleep for 2 days to organize the fleet's supplies. Every ship carried enough food and water for 6 months, plus medical supplies for treating wounded crew members. The ammunition load was the largest ever assembled for a single mission. We're carrying enough firepower to level a small planet, Kate reported to Admiral Campbell. If we can't stop the Devourers with this fleet, nothing can. The final preparations involved installing the experimental EMP generators on every ship. Danny Cooper personally supervised the installation process, knowing that these weapons might be the key to victory. The generators were untested in real combat, but computer simulations showed they could be devastating against electronic systems. Dr. Martinez prepared the medical bays for treating injuries unlike anything human doctors had ever seen. The Devourers were reported to use energy weapons that could cause burns and radiation damage. He loaded extra supplies of pain medication and surgical equipment. As the fleet prepared to depart, Commander Morrison received one final message from the Zephyrians. The translation was brief but desperate. Hurry, few of us remain. The Devourers grow stronger with each day. Our cities burn. Our people fade. You are our last hope. Admiral Campbell gave the final order from Terra Command. All ships, prepare. For departure, the fold space drives are charged and ready. Destination, Kepler 442 system. Time to departure, 30 minutes. Captain Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Harbinger, watching Earth grow smaller on the main screen. Behind him, 48 other ships prepared to follow him into the unknown. They were carrying humanity's hopes and the survival of an entire alien civilization. All ships, this is Captain Brooks. We're not just fighting for the Zephyrians. We're fighting for every living being in the galaxy. The Devourers won't stop with one planet. If we don't stop them now, they'll keep consuming worlds until they reach Earth. The fold space drives activated with a brilliant flash of light. The fleet vanished from Earth's orbit, beginning their journey to a distant star system where the fate of organic life in the galaxy would be decided. The human fleet traveled through fold space like ships sailing through a dark ocean. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Harbinger, watching the strange colors that swirled outside the windows. The fold space drive bent reality around them, allowing the ships to cross impossible distances in weeks instead of centuries. "Captain, we're maintaining formation perfectly," reported Commander Helen Parker from her tactical station. "All 49 ships are staying together. The destroyers are protecting the flanks while the cruisers guard the center." Ryan nodded as he studied the fleet status displays. Each ship showed green lights across all systems. The crews had been working around the clock to keep everything running smoothly. In 3 weeks, they would reach the Kepler 442 system and face an enemy unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Commander Jake Morrison worked in the communication center, coordinating intelligence between all the ships. His team had set up a network that allowed every vessel to share information instantly. More importantly, they continued receiving messages from the Zephyrians. "The latest transmission is not good news," Jake reported to Captain Brooks during the daily briefing. "The Devourers have increased their attacks. They're now harvesting entire cities in single operations." Dr. Amy Rodriguez had been working without rest to learn more about both the Zephyrians and their enemies. Her translation programs had improved dramatically, and she could now understand the alien messages almost perfectly. What she learned made her more worried with each passing day. "The Zephyrians are not warriors," Amy explained to the senior officers. "They're scientists and traders. For thousands of years, they've solved problems through negotiation and cooperation. They've never had to fight a war like this." The Zephyrians had tried to communicate with the Devourers when the machines first appeared in their system. They offered to share their technology and knowledge in exchange for peace. The Devourers responded by attacking their communication ships and harvesting the crews for raw materials. "They don't understand why the Devourers want to destroy everything," Amy continued. "The machines don't need their planets or their resources. They just consume everything organic and turn it into more machines." Chief Engineer Danny Cooper spent his time modifying the fleet's weapon systems. The MP generators were working perfectly, but he wanted to make them even more effective. He had studied every piece of data about the Devourers and found patterns in their technology. "The machines use a distributed network system," Danny explained to his engineering teams. "Each ship can function independently, but they're all connected through quantum communication links. If we can disrupt those links, we can turn their coordination against them." Dr. Steve Martinez prepared his medical teams for treating injuries they had never seen before. The Zephyrian messages included descriptions of wounds caused by Devourer weapons. The machines used energy beams that could burn through organic tissue and disrupt nervous systems. "We're dealing with weapons designed specifically to kill living beings," Steve told his medical staff. "The Devourers have studied organic life forms and created the most efficient ways to destroy them. We need to be ready for anything." Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the USS Defiance, one of the heavy cruisers accompanying the Harbinger. She had fought in the Martian Wars and knew how to handle large-scale combat operations. Her experience would be crucial in the coming battle. "The Devourers fight with overwhelming numbers," Elena explained to her crew. "They don't care about losses because they can always build more ships. Our advantage is that we can think creatively and adapt to new situations." The fleet's fighter pilots trained constantly during the journey. Lieutenant Alex Thompson led a squadron of 12 fighters, each one equipped with the latest human technology. The small ships were fast and maneuverable, designed to exploit weaknesses in larger vessels. "We're going to face machines that don't get tired and don't make mistakes," Alex told his pilots. but they also don't have intuition or creativity. We need to be unpredictable and aggressive. Captain Maria Santos commanded a group of destroyers that would serve as the fleet's Mogul strike force. Her ships were smaller than the cruisers but carried powerful weapons and could move quickly across the battlefield. Her crews had practiced hit-and-run tactics that would confuse mechanical enemies. The Devourers expect their opponents to fight defensively, Maria explained to her captains. They're used to civilizations that try to protect their planets and populations. We're going to attack them directly and force them to respond to our actions. As the fleet traveled deeper into unknown space, the messages from the Zephyrians became more desperate. Commander Morrison and Dr. Rodriguez worked together to analyze each transmission, looking for tactical information that could help in the coming battle. The Devourers are building something on the planet's surface, Jake reported. The Zephyrians call it a constructor. It's a massive factory that turns organic matter into new machines. If we don't stop it soon, the enemy fleet will be twice as large as our intelligence estimates. The human crews used the travel time to study everything they could about their enemies. The Devourers had appeared in 17 different star systems, and each time they followed the same pattern. They would arrive with a small scout force, analyze the local defenses, and then return with an overwhelming fleet. They're methodical and efficient, Commander Parker observed. They don't take unnecessary risks, and they don't leave anything to chance, but that predictability might be their weakness. Captain Brooks called a meeting of all ship commanders using the fleet's holographic communication system. The captains appeared as blue-tinted images around the conference table, their faces serious as they discussed the upcoming battle. "We have one advantage the Devourers don't expect," Ryan told his officers. "We're not trying to defend our homeworld. We're coming to them as an attacking force. They've never faced an enemy that sought them out for battle." The final week of travel brought increasingly urgent messages from the Zephyrians. Their homeworld was dying as the Devourers consumed city after city. The organic population that had once numbered in the billions was now reduced to scattered millions hiding in underground shelters. "We must reach them soon," Amy translated from the latest message. "The constructor grows larger each day. Soon it will be too powerful for any force to stop." Dr. Martinez received detailed medical information from Zephyrian doctors who were treating Devourer attack victims. The alien physicians had learned to treat energy weapon burns and neural disruption damage. Their medical knowledge would be invaluable for treating human casualties. "The Zephyrians are sharing everything they know with us," Steve reported. "They're putting complete trust in our ability to save them. We can't let them down." As the fleet prepared to exit Fold Space, Captain Brooks stood on the bridge of the USS Harbinger and looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere in the darkness waited an enemy that had destroyed 17 civilizations. In a few hours, humanity would face its greatest test. "All ships, prepare for combat," Ryan announced to the fleet. "We're about to find out if Earth's military reputation is deserved." The human fleet dropped out of Fold Space at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and Captain Ryan Brooks felt his heart sink at what he saw. The Zephyrian homeworld was surrounded by hundreds of dark mechanical ships, each one the size of a city. The Devourers had turned the beautiful blue planet into a feeding ground. "Dear God," whispered Commander Helen Parker as she stared at the tactical display. "There are so many of them." The Devourer fleet was massive beyond anything the humans had expected. Black geometric ships moved in perfect formations around the planet, their surfaces covered with weapons and harvesting equipment. Smaller vessels shuttled between the larger ships and the planet's surface, carrying loads of organic matter to processing facilities. "Captain, I'm reading over 300 enemy vessels," reported Lieutenant Brady from the sensor station. "They range from destroyer size up to ships that are 5 times larger than the Harbinger." Ryan studied the enemy formation and felt a moment of doubt. The human fleet had 49 ships against more than 300. But he remembered Admiral Campbell's words about humanity's reputation for warfare. The Zephyrians had called for help because they believed humans could win impossible battles. "All ships, this is Captain Brooks. We're outnumbered 6-1, but we have something they don't. We have the element of surprise and the will to fight. Attack Formation Alpha. Target the command ships first. The USS Harbinger led the charge, its quantum torpedoes blazing through space toward the nearest Devourer command vessel. The massive torpedo struck the machine ship's hull and tore through its armor like paper. Explosions rippled across the enemy vessel as its internal systems failed. "Direct hit," Commander Parker reported. "The enemy ship is losing power and atmosphere." But the Devourers responded quickly. Their ships turned toward the human fleet with mechanical precision, their weapons charging with deadly energy. Beams of red light lanced through space, striking the human ships with devastating force. The destroyer USS Phoenix took a direct hit from 3 enemy beams. Its shields collapsed instantly, and the ship's hull began to melt under the intense heat. Captain Johnson's voice crackled over the communication system. "Phoenix is taking heavy damage. We're losing life support on decks 4 and 5. "Phoenix, fall back to the second line," Captain Brooks ordered. "Cruisers, move up and cover their retreat." Captain Elena Vasquez brought the USS Defiance alongside the Harbinger, her ship's railgun batteries firing continuously at the enemy formation. The high-speed projectiles punched through Devourer armor and caused internal explosions that lit up the darkness of space. "Their armor is tough, but our railguns can penetrate it," Elena reported. "We need to get closer to be more effective." The battle spread across the entire system as human ships engaged Devourer vessels in dozens of separate fights. Lieutenant Alex Thompson led his fighter squadron in a daring attack on a group of enemy cruisers, his small ships darting between the massive mechanical vessels like angry wasps. "Fox Squadron, concentrate fire on their communication arrays." Alex ordered his pilots. "If we can disrupt their coordination, the bigger ships can finish them off." The human fighters were faster and more maneuverable than the Devourer interceptors. Alex's pilots used tactics learned from atmospheric combat on Earth, making sudden turns and unexpected attacks that confused the mechanical enemies. Their missile strikes damaged critical systems on several enemy ships. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Danny Cooper activated the experimental EMP generators on the Harbinger. The electromagnetic pulse spread out like an invisible wave, striking a formation of Devourer ships and causing their electronic systems to fail. "MP strike successful," Danny reported. "Enemy formation Delta is dead in space. Their ships are drifting without power." Captain Maria Santos led her destroyer squadron in a coordinated strike against the disabled enemy ships. Her vessels fired everything they had at the helpless Devourer cruisers, turning them into clouds of metal debris floating in space. "Santos Squadron reporting 6 enemy ships destroyed," Maria announced. "The EMP weapons are working perfectly." But the Devourers were learning and adapting. Their remaining ships began to spread out, making it harder for the human EMP generators to target multiple vessels at once. The machines also started focusing their attacks on the human cruisers, trying to eliminate the most dangerous enemy ships first. The USS Defiance shuddered under repeated hits from Devourer energy weapons. Captain Vasquez struggled to keep her ship in the fight as damage reports poured in from every deck. "Engineering reports massive damage to the primary power systems," her first officer reported. "We're down to emergency power only." "Keep fighting," Elena ordered. "We're not running from these machines." Dr. Steve Martinez worked frantically in the medical bay as wounded. Crew members were brought in from damaged sections of the ship. The Devourer energy weapons caused burns that were unlike anything he had seen before. The energy seemed to disrupt human nervous systems, causing paralysis and organ failure. "The enemy weapons are specifically designed to kill organic life," Steve reported to Captain Brooks. "They're not just trying to destroy our ships, they're trying to harvest us." The battle raged for 12 hours without stopping. Human ships fought with desperate courage against overwhelming odds, but the Devourers seemed endless. For every enemy ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. The machines were using their constructor on the planet's surface to build new vessels during the battle. Commander Jake Morrison coordinated intelligence between all the human ships, But the reports were getting worse. The fleet had lost 8 ships completely, and most of the remaining vessels were heavily damaged. The Devourers had lost perhaps 50 ships, but they still outnumbered the humans 3-1. "Captain, we're not winning this fight," Jake reported. "The enemy is replacing their losses faster than we can destroy them." And that's when Dr. Amy Rodriguez made a discovery that changed everything. She had been monitoring communications between the Zephyrian survivors on the planet's surface and noticed something strange in their transmissions. "Captain Brooks, I think I found something important," Amy announced over the ship's communication system. "The Zephyrians are generating some kind of interference with the Devourer systems. It's weak, but it's there." "What kind of interference?" Captain Brooks asked. "It's bioelectric. The Zephyrians' neural patterns are creating electromagnetic frequencies that disrupt machine systems. That's why the Devourers haven't been able to harvest them as quickly as they expected." Commander Parker understood immediately. "If we can amplify those frequencies, we might be able to turn the Devourers' own coordination systems against them." "Exactly," Amy confirmed. "But we need to work with the Zephyrians on the planet's surface. They have to help us create a massive bioelectric pulse." Captain Brooks made a decision that would determine the fate of both species. "All ships, this is the captain. We're going to attempt a joint operation with the Zephyrians. It's our only chance to win this battle." The human fleet regrouped around the Harbinger as Captain Brooks explained the plan. They would use their communication arrays to coordinate with the Zephyrians on the planet's surface. Together, they would create a bioelectric pulse powerful enough to disrupt the entire Devourer fleet. "This is our last chance," Ryan told his crew. "If this doesn't work, we're all going to die fighting these machines. But if it does work, we might just save 2 civilizations." The Devourers sensed that something was changing. Their attacks became more desperate as they tried to destroy the human fleet before the plan could be executed. Energy beams filled the space around the human ships as the machines fought to prevent their own destruction. "All stations, prepare for the bioelectric pulse," Captain Brooks announced. "This is for Earth, for the Zephyrians, and for every living being in the galaxy." Captain Ryan Brooks watched the tactical display as Dr. Amy Rodriguez worked to establish contact with the Zephyrian survivors on the planet's surface. The human fleet had formed a protective circle around the Harbinger while enemy ships closed in from all directions. This was their last chance. "Amy, we need that connection now," Ryan urged as Devourer energy beams struck the ship's shields. "We can't hold them off much longer." "I'm getting a response," Amy announced, her voice filled with excitement. "There's a Zephyrian scientist named Kethver who understands what we're trying to do. He's gathering all the survivors in the underground shelters." Commander Jake Morrison coordinated the communication links between all human ships and the Zephyrian survivors. The aliens had hidden in deep caves and underground cities, places where the Devourers couldn't easily reach them. There were still millions of Zephyrians alive, though their numbers decreased with each passing hour. "Kethver says they can generate the bioelectric pulse," Jake reported. "But they need our communication arrays to amplify the signal. Every ship in the fleet has to link their systems together." Chief Engineer Danny Cooper worked frantically to modify the communication equipment. The plan required every human ship to synchronize their transmission arrays and focus them on the planet's surface. The combined signal would then amplify the Zephyrian's natural bioelectric field. "This is crazy," Danny muttered as he rerouted power cables. "We're turning our entire fleet into one giant communication system. If this doesn't work, we'll be defenseless." The Devourers seemed to sense that something was happening. Their attacks became more focused and desperate. Enemy ships launched everything they had at the human fleet, trying to destroy the communication arrays before the plan could be completed. The destroyer USS Lightning took a direct hit from a massive Devourer cruiser. The ship's communication array exploded in a shower of sparks and metal debris. Captain Wilson's voice crackled over the emergency channel. "Lightning's communication system is destroyed. We can't participate in the pulse." "Fall back and provide cover fire," Captain Brooks ordered. We'll have to do this with 40 ships instead of 41. Captain Elena Vasquez kept the USS Defiance in formation despite heavy damage to her ship's hull. Her crew worked desperately to keep the communication array operational while enemy fire pounded their shields. Defiance is ready for pulse generation, Elena reported. Our array is damaged but functional. Dr. Steve Martinez treated wounded crew members while the battle raged around them. The medical bay was filled with injured sailors who refused to leave their posts. They knew that this moment would determine whether humanity and the Zephyrians would survive or be consumed by the machines. "Doctor, I need to get back to my station," insisted Petty Officer Linda Hayes, despite burns covering half her body. "My ship needs me." "You're in no condition to fight," Steve replied, but he could see the determination in her eyes. "At least let me give you something for the pain." Lieutenant Alex Thompson's fighter squadron provided close protection for the fleet's communication arrays. His pilots flew their damaged ships with incredible skill, intercepting Devourer interceptors that tried to target the crucial equipment. "Fox leader to all fighters," Alex announced. "Protect those arrays at all costs. Without them, we're all dead." His wingman, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, destroyed 2 enemy fighters with a single missile shot. Her fighter's hull was scarred by energy weapon hits, but she continued flying with mechanical precision that would have impressed the Devourers themselves. Commander Morrison received the final confirmation from the Zephyrian survivors. All underground shelters are ready. Kethver reports they have 6 million Zephyrians participating in the pulse generation. It should be enough. "All ships, this is Captain Brooks," Ryan announced to the entire fleet. "Link your communication arrays to the Harbinger's main system. We're about to find out if organic life can beat mechanical perfection." The human ships formed a perfect formation despite the ongoing battle. Their communication arrays turned toward the planet and began generating a synchronized signal. The beam struck the Zephyrian homeworld and connected with the bioelectric field generated by millions of alien minds working together. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Devourers continued their attacks and human ships continued to take damage. Then the pulse began to build. It started as a barely detectable electromagnetic wave spreading out from the planet's surface. But as the human communication arrays amplified the Zephyrian bioelectric field, the pulse grew stronger and stronger. Soon it was racing through space at the speed of light. Invisible but incredibly powerful, the pulse struck the first Devourer ships, and their electronic systems began to fail. Navigation computers crashed, weapon systems went offline, and communication links between ships were severed. The machines that had functioned with perfect coordination for thousands of years suddenly found themselves isolated and confused. "It's working," Commander Parker announced as she watched enemy ships drift helplessly through space. "The Devourer fleet is losing coordination. Their ships are dead in the water." Captain Maria Santos led her destroyer squadron in the final attack. The human ships charged forward, firing everything they had at the disabled enemy vessels. Quantum torpedoes and railgun rounds tore through Devourer armor that could no longer defend itself. "Santos squadron engaging disabled enemy ships," Maria reported. "They're not even firing back. The pulse has completely shut down their systems." The battle turned into a systematic destruction of the Devourer fleet. Human ships moved from vessel to vessel, destroying the helpless machines with concentrated fire. The enemies that had seemed invincible just hours before were now nothing more than floating targets. Chief Engineer Cooper monitored the pulse effects from the Harbinger's engineering deck. "The bioelectric field is disrupting their quantum communication networks," he reported. "Without those networks, each Devourer ship is operating independently, and they don't know how to handle that." The massive constructor on the planet's surface was also affected by the pulse. The enormous factory that had been converting Zephyrian cities into new machines suddenly shut down. Its production lines stopped moving, and the partially built ships in its assembly bays went dark. "The constructor is offline," Dr. Rodriguez translated from a message from Kethver. "The Zephyrians are saying it's the first time the machine has stopped working since the Devourers arrived." Admiral Campbell's voice came through from Terra Command, delayed by the vast distance but filled with pride. Fleet Commander Brooks. Terra Command is receiving your status reports. Congratulations on a victory that will be remembered forever. Captain Brooks stood on the bridge of the Harbinger and watched the last Devourer ships burn in the darkness of space. The threat that had consumed 17 star systems was finally ended, but he knew this was just the beginning. Commander Morrison, are you receiving any distress signals from other star systems? Ryan asked. Jake checked his communication equipment and nodded grimly. At least 12 different systems are broadcasting emergency signals. It looks like there are other Devourer fleets out there. Then our work isn't finished, Ryan replied. Amy, establish formal contact with the Zephyrian government. It's time to form an alliance. Dr. Rodriguez opened a communication channel with Kethver and the other Zephyrian leaders. The conversation that followed would change the galaxy forever. Humanity had proven that organic life could defeat mechanical perfection, but only by working together. The Zephyrians want to share their biotechnology with us, Amy translated. In return, they're asking for our protection and military expertise. They want to build a defense alliance that includes every organic species in the galaxy. Captain Brooks looked at the stars surrounding the Zephyrian system and thought about Earth, far away but no longer alone. Humanity had answered one cry for help and discovered that the galaxy was full of civilizations that needed Earth's warriors. Signal the fleet, Ryan ordered. We're going home to prepare for a much larger war. The age of human isolation is over.